Okay, we're here in London with Janice Atkinson, and we just had a very, very nice dinner in a very nice hotel, and we've really been putting the world to rights for the past 2 hours,
2 hours,
2 hours or so. We're talking about serious things, but the reality is that the country is facing an existential crisis at the moment, and we need to find the solutions to the problems that we face. And what we've been talking about is linking groups together, linking people together in different nations. What do you think, Janice? What do you think we do next in the movement? What's the next step?
I think you have your set of values, as you said. You're going to have a mission statement and get people to sign up. This is not a political party. You're hastening to it. It's the UK freedom movement.
But I think what you say is right. We need to start with a mission statement. One of the problems that we've got in all of these movements is they can be more based on people than on an idea, and the idea is the most important thing. If we all share the same idea, then if I get taken down, or you get taken down, or anybody else in the movement gets taken down, the movement survives, because the movement is based on an ideology and an idea.
A set of British values, which actually David Cameron tried to do but never managed it. Within UKIP, I tried to do that. What does it mean to be British? What are our values? What's the vision for our country? And I don't think any politician, apart from actually the Brexiteers, and maybe a few people in the Conservative ERG, what is the vision for our country? What's the vision for our youth? What's the vision for our future in education? The Liberal left have got hold of our education system, they've got hold of the NHS, they've got hold of the Conservative Party under Cameron. They were Social Democrats, as we've seen in this independent group. So it's almost like becoming sort of the Tea Party of America. It's influencing and forming opinions. So you change political parties, a bit like UKIP did within the Conservative Party.
And what we've got to do, we've got to really look back. I mean, to me, what we're doing is we're unpicking 50 years of cultural Marxism, of multiculturalism, of mass unchecked immigration, and we're not talking about doing anything to stop, to put people out of the country or anything stupid like that. But what we're talking about is getting everybody, irrespective of colour or creed, to identify with these British values. I don't care whether people are atheists or Sikhs or Hindus or Christians or Jews. If they can identify with these British values, which we need to identify and we need to look into, then we can build something great. And we're not trying to build a political party. We're trying to build a grassroots movement that cuts through class and every other. One of the big problems we've got in the UK and right the way across the Western world is identity politics.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can take that out of the game,
it's so damaging.
It's so damaging.
There's so much cash behind it. We don't have any cash behind us in our movement, but the likes of Hope Not Hate, the racism industry, the human rights industry, the sexism industry, the gender industry, it's all an industry, and they're all funded.
And we're not. We've got no money whatsoever. But if we have an idea, I think an idea is worth far more than money.
It's resonating with people. Why is it that BuzzFeed and Huffington Post have lost 1,000 journalists? Because they don't want to hear about the green environmental crap that isn't true. They don't want to hear about the divisive gender and racial politics that's dividing people. And that's and that really will resonate with people. And then what do? Well, we link up across the world. I've got this idea of a sort of what I call a sort of global triangle think tank approach. So we link up with my friends in the Austrian FPO, we link up with Salvini in Italy, Marine Le Pen in France, and so it goes on. But we just don't do it there. We've got friends in Australia, in Israel, New Zealand, and actually in Bolsonaro
and
now,
the thing
in
is,
Brazil.
we all share the common values now. I think
sovereignty, identity, borders, and our traditions and way of life.
Exactly, our traditions. I mean, if we can get people to sign up to British values, it doesn't matter where they came from. It matters what they believe now, and that's the key to it. So, but to get to the British values, we've got to look right the way back through history and go through all the great documents, the great movements, the Magna Carta, go right the way back to Alfred the Great. I mean, that sounds a bit eccentric, but that's where all our values came from. And I mean, really, when you look at the core of what British values is, it's really based on the golden rule: do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. And if everybody lived by that, that brings equality before the law. And of course, the identity politicians, the cultural Marxists, the Islamists, they all pour scorn on that, because there's no quality. With the Islamists, there's no equality for women. Women are treated worse than second-class citizens. There's no equality for the infidel and the unbeliever. With the identitarians, the British people are at the bottom of the pile. You know, the true British people at the bottom of the pile. So we've got to find a way of totally dismantling that, but getting the middle ground that aren't woken up to this, to realise what's happened in the past 40 years, and realise that we as a people have been totally betrayed. You know, people talk about what happened to the American Indians when the white man went over there and basically pushed them off the land. That's what's happening now to British people, irrespective of colour.
But there's so much anger, and I really do feel that if we don't deliver Brexit on the 29th of March, the faith will totally destroy politics, the lack of faith that the British people have in this country now. I don't know what the percentage is, but you know that the Conservative Party will be destroyed. Labour will have their heartlands destroyed as well. They will go to the absolute far right, which will be such a disaster for this country. You know, we were the ones that stood against the Nazis, we were the ones that have built basically, you know, across British values across the world with the Commonwealth, etc. There is so much to harness, and people are so angry. My post box is just so full up. My email box is just so full up with people that have said, you know, I've never been political. I might have voted Conservative. I might have voted for Blair in 1997. I am so angry now. I am not voting. And that's a danger if these people don't vote.
It is
or they will be driven to the far right. Or the extreme left.
I mean, I'm more worried about the extreme left. I don't think the far right really exists. I mean, there's a couple of crazy parties out there, but I think the problem, if we buy into that far right narrative, I mean, they class us as far right.
Yes, I know they do. You know, I know they do, and that's just so ridiculous.
The real far right is probably about 6 people in a above a pub somewhere in Brighton or something. I mean, I just don't think that they are a threat that really exists. What the danger is, if we continue to be ostracised and vilified and demonised and called far right, then that actually gives oxygen to the real far right.
No, we have to stop. We have
to stop that narrative.
That narrative,
yeah.
And we can. But the trouble is, when we're being deplatformed, and you know what's happened in the past 24 hours, where, you know, mainstream conservative people, and I count myself, you know, I haven't been deplatformed, but you've seen the people that have been taken down.
UKIPers, Rhys Coombs, me, Raheem. Now, strangely, we were deplatformed, and then we were given our platform back. Some people think it's because...
But somebody made that decision somewhere.
Somebody,
to take
us down.
Those certain people.
It was orchestrated. It was a purge. It was like something that happened in communist Russia. Yeah. And that's
the burning of the books.
It's the burning of the books. Yeah. And I mean, that's what, even books have been banned. I mean, Tommy's book, Tommy Robinson's Quran, has been deplatformed from Amazon, so you can't buy a copy of it on Amazon. Luckily, I got a copy before they banned it. But so we're facing all that. But that's where I think something like the UK freedom movement comes in, where when you're identifying what you're for and not what you're against. So you're saying, we're for this, and therefore this is what we believe, this is our mission statement, and people can sign up to that. There's no money involved. We're not looking for money off people. We're just looking for people to say, yes, we identify with these values, and this is what we believe. And obviously when we're ready to launch with that, but I think you talked about the 29th of March, and I think it's vital that there is a mass demonstration, a peaceful legal demonstration on the 29th of March outside Parliament.
Whichever way it goes.
Whichever way it goes, because if we've got a no deal, which I'm praying for, that we get a no deal.
I don't think it's heading that way. Do you think it's
no,
heading that way? The ERG seem to be capitulating.
We're going to be betrayed. We're going to go for Theresa May's rotten deal, where we give away billions of pounds, we remain prisoners of the European Union, and eventually they go, well, what was the point in trying to get out? It didn't work. Let's get us back in. But that's why we've got to start building now. So if we build something like the UK freedom movement, it subverts what they're trying to do. Because at the end of the day, if enough people support us, we'll win. I mean, that's the way democracy works.
So what are you hoping that they do? They then lobby their MPs, those that are left. How would you harness this movement during a general election, for example?
Obviously, it's too soon for that, but we've got UKIP, and I know a lot of people are sceptical about UKIP. I've worked with Gerard Batten. You worked with Gerard Batten. He's a man of absolute integrity. He's a man of the people. He's a genuinely working class man. He's not one of Gerard's problems is he's quite humble. In fact, he's not like a typical bombastic politician. He doesn't shout about himself, but he is one of the most genuine people I've ever met in politics. Hopefully we can persuade Gerard to stay, if you're watching, Gerard. And if we can get him to stay, then I think UKIP's got a chance. But of course we're being demonised by the media. And of course Nigel Farage has run off and set up this little vanity project, the Brexit Party, which is going nowhere. I've heard all sorts of rumours that the name, he doesn't even know the name of the party. I'm not sure whether that's true or not, but if it is, it's a bit of a disaster for him. So I think we've got to get behind UKIP. Now obviously it's not a quick fix. It might, we might get no seats in the next general election, but if the percentage of the vote goes up, we'll see progress. In the first past the post system, it's extremely difficult to break through. The Labour Party's finished. There's this new independent group that's set up. The Conservative Party are totally fragmented. So you would like to think that there is an opportunity there. So UKIP have got to grasp that. But at the same time, I think there needs to be a movement that's independent of UKIP that is not overtly political. So if people in our movement say, well, we want to vote for an ERG MP or a Brexiteer Conservative MP.
So you would put your weight behind, because when I stood in 2010, UKIP stood for the Conservative Party. UKIP, which was led by Lord Pearson at the time, stood down the UKIP candidate against me, and they did that in the various seats. So would you have that approach? I'm not sure that Gerard would necessarily.
Well, Gerard wouldn't. I mean, Gerard, as far as I know, Gerard wouldn't allow that approach. UKIP would have to stand in every seat.
I don't believe in that approach, and I respect Gerard very much. I think Nigel wanted to go that way, but the membership in the NEC wouldn't allow him to do it. So you have to target. You look at, there's 100 to 120 seats that swing a general election. You've got to choose those seats and go and fight in those seats. You've got to agitate.
I gave Gerard a document in 2000, I think it was January 2018, which had 22 marginal seats, both Labour and Conservative, with less than 1,000 majority, that voted Leave. So they're your targets.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
if you want to
put your efforts.
you put your resources into those targets. If Rees-Mogg's standing, it looks like he might lose to someone because UKIP are going to stand. Well, I'm sorry, this is me, speaking as a normal punter. I would say, well, don't stand in that.
You put the UK freedom movement behind that MP, and you stand down UKIP. So that's the only way you can do it.
Exactly. That would be what I would want to do. Now, obviously, UKIP might not like that, but it's the same in Northern Ireland. In Northern Ireland, if we have a chance of getting another DUP MP elected, and they are backing Brexit, then that's what you're going to go for. Now, obviously, if Brexit's betrayed and they try to get to another general election, I don't know if they can. I don't know what's going to happen.
I think there's an outside chance she will go for a general election because she doesn't want the legacy, although it's going to be her legacy in my opinion, is that she was the worst Prime Minister that the country has had since he. She's the worst Tory leader.
I would say the worst one since Neville Chamberlain. I mean, worse actually, far worse, because at least he had the decency to resign when he was betraying the country. She is betraying our country.
She's on very dodgy ground because she will go down in history as either the woman that stopped Brexit or stopped the real Brexit from happening. We're still shackled to
and I
the
think
EU.
one of the very dangerous things that we've got is, and it's not really the far right and the far left thing. The country is very, very divided. A lot of Remainers think that we're all complete nut jobs and far-right extremists, and we, have similar sort of contempt, if we're honest, for people that are ardently supporting Remain. So we're in a very, very divided state at the minute, and what we've got to do is try to...
See, I don't think we are. I think the people that voted for Brexit wanted to live it. They're just getting on with their lives. Yes, they're a bit angry, but I think the real vindictive nastiness and the neurosis comes from the Remainers. I mean, the vitriol on social media, the way that we're targeted, etc., with the hate speech, if you believe in that sort of thing that's directed at us,
well,
it's far worse than the other way.
That phrase, hate speech, comes back to the whole idea of...
It comes back to hate crime laws that Blair brought in 1997 to aid and abet the human rights industry, and who's benefited? His wife, or his mates he was at university with.
We know that the Islamist Muslim Council of Britain were behind many of those laws as well, and tried to pass an Islamic blasphemy law that was defeated by one vote. And even though Sylvia Herman is a Remainer, she was the person that flipped and decided to vote against that, and it was defeated by 1 vote. So that shows that Parliament can work to prevent bad laws being passed. But on the issue of Brexit, I think if Brexit's betrayed, and it's obviously we're not getting a clean break, and that, to me, that's not going to happen now.
It's not going to happen. If her deal goes through, and it will still split the Tory party. The ERG is saying that they're going to support it now. So they've got the numbers, and the DUP apparently are supporting it as well.
Yes, they are.
So if they've got those two, then they've got the numbers to get it through.
They've still got no guarantees on the backstop?
No. Well, there may be a get-out clause. I don't know. This is a deal that just absolutely benefits the European Union. It doesn't benefit us.
And I think that's the plan. I think it's going to be such a bad deal that in a few years' time, when we don't have any influence in the European Union, but we have all the problems of being in the European Union, that we're going to be in a situation that, you know, a party leader will come back and say, well, guys, you got it so wrong, let's get back in there and get back in the club. But I think the club will have gone by then because of Salvini and Le Pen and all the rest of them.
It'll be a different club. It will be a true Europe of nations and freedom. At the moment, we're looking at 50% of the socialists being wiped out, and that's the socialists saying that themselves. The likes of Verhofstadt and his balmy army of Audi groups, the Liberals, they are facing complete and utter wipeout.
Well, that would be a happy day.
Merkel's people are facing 20% reduction. So we're going to come back bigger and stronger. There's going to be at least 30% of the populist right coming back. So we can start blocking legislation. We're already agitating at the moment. It's quite interesting.
Do you think you'll be standing in an election again then in May? Do you think it's going to come to
no, and the reason I don't think there will be, if she goes for a general election and Corbyn wins, there'll be a people's vote. We'll see what that goes. I still think we win.
I don't think. But the problem is with the people's vote, how the question's framed.
Oh, absolutely. It's all going
to be loaded.
All framed. They want the customs union in the single market, so that's shackled to them. I don't think there will be European elections because she wants rid of Farage, Batten, people like me. She wants to cut them off. So if they don't have any elected representatives, they have no right to actually be on broadcast.
And they have no
no money.
Yeah.
And so therefore you cut off their voice, you cut off the money, and that she wants to be her legacy. UKIP has dogged the Conservative Party in the southeast of England for decades now. So that's what she wants rid of, and that may be her legacy.
That brings us on to the next thing, which is the issue of silencing people and freedom of speech. I mean, what do you think about the state of freedom of speech in the UK?
I think it's frightening. I never used to really believe in conspiracy theories, but in the 2 years that we voted for Brexit, we've seen our people deplatformed, demonetised, kicked off Twitter, kicked off Facebook. Very difficult to get bank accounts. We know that there's surveillance going on. We know we're being watched. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I know that's happening. People feel very, very vulnerable, very frightened on their own. But do you know what? It's still there. You can't. They've shut down Tommy Robinson. They've taken away his Facebook account. Where do they think those million people are going to go? Today they're very angry because they can't hear him. You know, if they took your Facebook down.
They took it down and put it back up. I mean, there was myself and a few other UKIPers had been taken off Facebook, but within 12 hours we were back up. Now, was that a shot across the bow saying this is how easy we can close your platform?
Who influenced? Who's
the marketing manager at Facebook? It's Nick Clegg. Lord Clegg is the marketing manager. So obviously there's a connection between the British government and Facebook. They must have got that information from somewhere, and I'm imagining they got it from a list saying this guy's dangerous, this guy's dangerous, this girl's dangerous. Get rid of them.
Especially after the BBC documentary, the fight that's going on with Hope Not Hate at the moment. Now, don't forget, these people are fighting for their existence, and the people are rejecting them. And the same thing is actually happening on the continent as well. So this European election that's come up, these people are fighting for their federalism. Again, I always say it's a tipping point, and we're at a tipping point in the UK. If we allow this to happen, then our freedoms are broken. And I know you and I disagree on about the far right, but those million people, where they're going to go, that's going to make them angry. That is going to push them towards extremist politics.
I would agree that you can push people towards extremism, because if you silence people all the time and their voices closed down, this is what we were talking about this earlier on. This is what happened in Northern Ireland. You know, in the 60s there was the civil rights movement. There was people on the loyalist side were afraid, and the people on the Republican nationalist side, well, even not even the Republican nationalist side, the civil rights side were calling out for civil rights, and because their grievances were not listened to, you ended up with 40, 50 years of absolute mayhem and slaughter, and that could have been prevented if those people had been allowed to get involved in the political process very, very early on. Now, the danger that the British government has is that if they don't listen to us and they keep demonising us, and the left-wing media keep demonising us, and the Islamists keep demonising us, they might create the monster that they're afraid of.
Absolutely.
I mean, I would never condone violence, never get involved in anything illegal. I believe we can do this peacefully. I believe we need to do it more like Martin Luther King Jr. than we do like Jerry Adams and his murdering scumbags in the IRA. But at the same time, people may well be pushed to the position where they say, well, Richard, we've tried your way, we've tried the peaceful way, we've tried the political way, it hasn't worked. We're going to do what we think will work. And that's what the government have got to realise. We aren't the bad guys in this. We're the ones that want to do it right through constitutional politics.
They have to recognise what we voted for.
Yeah.
It isn't just about Brexit.
No.
If they betray us on Brexit, that is just indicative that the political classes down the road are very elitist. They live in their gilded towers. Look what happened with Supri, etc. They had a few. I mean, they're not far right. They're just misguided, some of these people.
Look, I know those
you've
guys.
You've got the Remainers fighting with them. I mean, there's some of those Remainers, those 70-year-old blokes that are out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's embarrassing to the country.
Well, we had a
but
situation.
They're being paid to stay there. That guy, Steve, is paid to
we
stay
had a situation, Janice, where I was on a veterans demo. It was back in the summer, maybe September time. And we were just walking around. There was a Romaniac demonstration on. There was hundreds of thousands of people supporting these people who were enemies of democracy. And there was a couple. They looked like they were in the late 60s, and they had the yellow badge on their cagoules, saying
the beige.
Yeah, the beige cagoules and their little.
And their Velcro strap
shoes.
Yeah,
so that's exactly. Yeah, you must have seen them. So, and the little yellow badge said "Bollocks to Brexit." And I have my medal on, not that, I did 7 years in the army, so it's no great shakes, but I have my Northern Ireland medal on. And I went up to them and I said, why are you wearing a badge saying bollocks to Brexit? I said, you're not embarrassed about that? And they didn't have an answer. I said, what you're trying to say is bollocks to democracy. I said, I'm not boasting. I said, well, I'm wearing a medal on the same place that you've got your bollocks to Brexit badge. I know what I'm more proud of. And they just didn't have any answer. Why did this?
They didn't know who Guy Verhofstadt was. Yeah. They didn't know who Juncker was. They couldn't name a single commissioner. Now they're household names. Nigel tells them every month, and I tell them every month. You've done a fantastic job of demonising
These are the people that rule them. That's why they don't realise that the British Parliament. They
don't understand what the laws are made, and that the people in Parliament are not making laws. And I'm afraid that those Remainer MPs. They are frightened of democracy because they are frightened of actually taking back control and making decisions for the vast majority of people, because for the past 40 odd years they haven't had to.
But they're also totally ideologically driven. They think that we're extremists. They are Euro fanatic extremists. They are Euro nationalists. They think, and let's kill a couple of the lies here about the European Union. The European Union didn't prevent war in Europe for the past. It was NATO. It was 150,000 British and American troops based in Germany, and they were based in Germany because the Germans were so crazy in the Second World War that they had to be disarmed and they had to have their fangs pulled. And again, after 50 years later, who is it that lets millions of migrants into the continent that want to destroy Europe? Well, guess what? It's the Germans that have done it again. And we're meant to sort of say, well, that's, we're just going to let them have free reign and govern, let Herr Merkel govern us.
And she's standing down. And you've got the likes of Rutte in the Netherlands, you've got Macron in France, you've got Merkel and her cohorts in Germany, and they're fighting for their very existence. I mean, Leo Varadkar has been their very useful idiot. I mean, you can see him pitching for the Commission's job. They'll just cast him aside once he's done the dirty tricks. Juncker is not going to be there. My people, when they come back, they will be choosing 2 commissioners. So Juncker isn't going to be there, Tusk isn't going to be there, Verhofstadt isn't going to be there. So Europe is going to be a very, very different place. And our people have to take heart in that as well. So even if our our government does us up like a kipper, we still have allies that are basically running countries, and that's what they fear against us. So if you harness something in this UK movement, freedom movement, you've got the vets behind you, you've got the football lads, they're not far right, they're just right, and you harness that
That's
power.
another,
That's very, very...
another lie I want to kill. I mean, I've been working with the Football Lads Alliance, the Democratic Football Lads Alliance, for the past 18 months, and I can guarantee they're almost... They can't do enough to prove that they're not far right, and they aren't far right. They're appalled by racism. I mean, these guys...
look, you and I have marched along by the families of those football lads who bring out their kids, they bring out their wives, and they stand in front of us, and they're looking for leaders. They are looking for somebody to say, you believe in exactly what I believe.
And these guys, I count them as my friends and my colleagues, and veterans of football lads, we're the same, we're kith and kin, we're all fighting men, we were all brought up in working class areas. The thing is, Janice, when you start talking to people, I mean, I was in a house on Saturday night with a vet, and the guy's nephew was there, and he didn't know anything about the movement, but he knew me, just from watching YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah.
So the following that we've got is probably a lot bigger than we think. But people are terrified, just like they were in Nazi Germany, just like they were in communist Russia, just like they are in Islamist countries, in Iran, in Saudi Arabia. People are terrified to speak out because they know there's going to be consequences for their safety, for their jobs, for their families, and people have been silenced. And that's why we've got to be their voice. We've got to be a voice, and a reasonable voice that says. Theresa May stood after those dreadful terrorist attacks and said, "Enough is enough." She didn't mean it, because nothing's changed. But we mean enough's enough. Enough of her. So we've got to do this. I just think we've got to keep doing what we're doing. I'm just encouraged. I'm encouraged by how far we've come in such a short period of time. There's a massive movement there. But
this movement has only grown. I mean, it's nearly 3 years ago that we voted for Brexit. Had they delivered Brexit and on time, there would be no need for the vets parties, the Veterans Against Terrorism, and all the other fishing for leave, and Nigel Farage, and all of us. We would have just quietly
I've never been in a political party in my life.
Gone back to normal life.
I don't need the hassle. I mean, this is big hassle for me. It creates all sorts of problems for all of us in all sorts of different ways. It costs us money, it costs us time.
It's angst.
But the thing is, Janice, we are patriots. We love our country. We love our people. We love the people of this country, and we want to see them free, because they're not free at the moment. And I mean, and the reason that the whole veterans and the DFLA movement started was because Islamist terrorists had butchered our people, and nobody was doing anything about it. They were making little heart shapes and singing "Kumbaya." Well, that's not going to solve the problem. And we needed a show of force that said, these men, and we were all there, nearly everybody in the football lads were men, and the veterans were all men. We stood up and said, we're going to protect our families and our wives and our children if we have to, and the government better listen to that.
And they haven't listened.
No, they haven't.
And
They've demonised us.
And it's going to be to their detriment. And I would say, if Theresa May delivers on March the 29th, I think a lot of us will just go away. We'll just go back to our lives.
Absolutely.
And we will not be a hassle. We might go. You might go back in the Conservative Party. I might go back into UKIP. Who knows? But I can then retire from public life and have a normal life. Thanks, Richard. I really appreciated the chat.
Great stuff.
Thank you,
Thanks,
darling.
Janice. That was all right, wasn't it?
I stopped that because